Huh. It's definitely on.
All right.
For
Good.
the 23rd.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the regularly scheduled Board of Ed meeting, October 15th, 2024, 7 p.m. to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Aha, back corner.
I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for attending. Next item on the agenda is the order of business. I have no changes to the order of business, so we will move on to communication to the Board of Education. Do we have anything?
Yes, sir.
We have received no communication to the Board of Education. Public comment? I think we'll hear from the three of you pretty soon. All right, no public comment. Moving on to superintendent's report.
Thank you so much, Chairman. If I could please just, Elizabeth, our minute taker, is not here physically in person, but she's going to be online this evening. So just a reminder, before you speak, please press the mic button just so she can capture the essence of what is being discussed this evening. I would greatly appreciate it. Check that off my list. I had to make sure I said that. All right. I want to kick off today. We have a lot to review and to share with the Board of Ed this evening. A lot of great things, a lot of things that we're proud to share, and obviously some things that we're going to continue to work on as well. I did want to start with a quote that I heard at one of the recent conferences that I went to that really made me pause and think pretty in depth as well. It's listening is the best way to persuade someone. That certainly made me pause, especially as a talker. I like to talk, but I need to listen as well, and finding that that's the best way. So I just want to share that little piece, that little nugget with everybody. All right. Today, I want to start off with updating the Board of Education on a number of items. First, under the safety and security measures of our schools, I am extremely excited to share that we've been working with the State Police Troop B in North Canaan. Our commanding officer, Lieutenant Jeremy Combs, and our own Trooper Figuerel and our own Trooper Wedge had us participating in a tabletop exercise to review a scenario and talk about all of the responses, the measurements of success, the measurements of failures, what we need to do to ensure the safety of our kiddos and our staff. So we were excited to meet with them, and we're looking to do that more often. That was a great, great thing to do and a great exercise to go through specifically all of the details of what we would engage in. And obviously those are, confidential to the operations of our district, but we feel very comfortable working with our state police and our first responders. Bob Diorio hosted us there, also a critical part of our emergency planning, and he also hosted. Mike Lynch, our director for student services, was there. Amy Kennedy, principal for Bakerville and New Hartford. Dr. Kelly Carroll, principal here at Antolini. We all participated with these scenarios. It was great. Another great piece of information that came from that was CTEC. If you haven't heard of that, that is the Connecticut Intelligence Center. So we met an individual that presented some very important information regarding swatting and threats that come into schools and what to do. And because a majority of them are just duplicative, they're copied, they're posted on social media. So we went over our responses for that. So that was a great exercise. And again, I look forward to continuing that work. Speaking of school and safety, with our emergency plans, every single year, the superintendent, as well as a whole host, the district safety team gathers together to review a document that we submit to the Department of Homeland Security here in the state of Connecticut. The membership includes Mr. Michael Lynch, Dr. Kelly Carroll, Ms. Amy Kennedy, our first selectman, Dan Jerem, our New Hartford resident state troopers, Figuerel and Wedge, as well as Rob Jenko, our chief and fire marshal, Rob Diorio, deputy fire marshal, Terry Ferrati, school medical advisor, Dr. Michael Curry, head nurse, Mrs. Marie Kitch, one of our school psychologists, Alex Plourd, our district administrative assistant, Ms. Janet Terenzi, our head custodian and lead head custodian, Mr. John Palutro, our DATCO representative for our bus company, Mr. Dennis Baker, our New Hartford Fire Department representative, Chief Mark Worsman, EMS Representative Nick Maltby, and Emergency Management Director Morgan Kennerson. A lot of brains, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience at the table to review the plans every single year. So great thanks to all of the members that were there. Every single year we find something to do better. Every single year we find something to discover, to go further into depth with, whether it be our fire evacuation plan, whether it be a true life-threatening emergency, whether it be a student that needs medical attention in the hallways, we always find a way to do something better. So I'm indebted and greatly appreciative of all of the members that attend for our district safety team. We do this, like I said, annually. We review this information as well with staff. We're also going to be doing that as a mid-year refresher with staff as well. That this year, that was another one of those pieces. What can we do better? We should be reviewing this more than one time as a district emergency plan. So we will submit this. In the process of collecting signatures, I have to collect our chairman's signature, principal signatures. All of those individuals that I mentioned have to sign off on this document before we submit it every single year. Again, this is private, obviously, and confidential for the safety and security of all of our staff and students in terms of evacuation procedures, where we go, how we reunite folks with their families, their students with families. It covers everything soup to nuts. So it's a great document, and I'm very grateful for all of the individuals that bring their expertise to the table. Most recently, we also, speaking of a little fire, our fire trucks came and visited our schools. We had some pictures that I shared with the Board of Education through our updates. They come and share their gear. Of course, kids want to sit in the fire trucks. It's a great experience for them. They've come to all 3 schools at this point, right? Yeah, everyone's nodding. So that's been a great experience for our kids. They're super excited. If you haven't heard about it, ask your kids about it. I'm also extremely proud to share that recently our own Heather Mathis and Kim Stimson and Kathleen Tancredi were invited to at one of the Connecticut State Forums, our Performance Matter conference, and they did an amazing job presenting our implementation of our EL education curriculum, and they presented how well we've done, how our engagement has increased. They answered questions from the audience as well. I was extremely proud to see them and extremely proud to bring New Hartford on the map. So that was really, really cool because we were there with a lot of different districts of all different sizes, and all were presenting on a lot of different topics. Our particular topic was, again, it was titled Doing This Together, Critical Moves in Literacy, and it's one of Connecticut's goals that all students are able to read at or above grade level independently and proficiently by the end of 3rd grade. This was our forum to demonstrate the work that we've done systematically in our district, from the inception of the subcommittee team to review of all the materials and to implementation. A huge kudos goes to Heather and our administrative team, as well as all the teachers and the paraeducators, everyone just, even in points of frustration, we know it's going to be better. Let's plow through this. Let's get through it. Let's make it better because we know it's going to have great fruit for our kids. And it really, really has. Our kids are super excited, as we saw at one of our presentations last year. And I even have a quote here from Kim Stimson, grade 3 teacher, in terms of her excitement. She says, "Since we have implemented EL education, I've noticed a significant difference in my students' engagement during ELA. Every student is so invested in the topics we study, and I've seen such a positive impact on their comprehension. Their extensive use of both topic and academic vocabulary in their speaking and writing is truly remarkable. They amaze me every day with what they remember, not only in what they are learning, but in what they learned last year too." So it's really, really cool to see that progression. We're super excited about that. And if our kids are excited and our staff's excited about it, it makes my heart leap. So I wanted to share that great news with the board today as well. So thank you so much to our presentation team and doing such an awesome job at the state level. Some quick updates. There are still some staffing updates. 2 paraeducator positions that are open. I encourage anybody here, if you know someone, to please apply. All that information is online. Our student representatives will be joining us in the month of November. They are going through a rigorous interview process with Dr. Carroll so that they could be our official board representatives. I love having them here at the table. Our experience last year, they were just a bright light every time they came to share some of the highlights that are going on throughout the district, not just in their grade level, but in other grade levels as well. And it's nice to know what's going on in the district. It's a small district, but there's a lot going on. So it's really good to have them here. Mr. Ryan Cornelius from Region 7 is the new middle school principal, and he has been by to visit both Dr. Kelly Carroll and myself, and with the superintendent of schools at Region 7, Steve LePage, in an effort to align our practices from assessment to curriculum, soup to nuts, more of an introductory, but we of course got into more discussion, and we're excited for that work to continue. We're going to be looking to establish maybe quarterly meetings and just meet more often to align our practices. All of the data from when you're a sixth grade student, we want to make sure that is handed off in a manner that makes sense to the Region 7 school system. So we're just in the beginning processes of that with a brand new administration there. So we're looking forward to great results on that and our continued work. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything, because last that I have on my list, of course, is to wish all of our children a safe and happy Halloween on October 31st if you participate in that. And I think that's all of my updates. Open for questions, comments, anything.
No questions, no comments? Perfect. Thank you.
I have a question, I guess.
Yes, sir.
So you mentioned that you're striving for third grade proficiency in reading at grade level. Do we have, what did you present in that matter?
Sure. So specifically, we were asked questions such as, what have we done systematically to create a schedule that's conducive to that? So that was a huge piece of legwork that our administrative staff had to engage in, because having a reading block change time frame is critical. And it also means that a lot of other moving parts in the schedule, special education services that are received, the special schedule, lunch and recess, all have to basically be aligned so that the grade level teachers can meet at the same time, have common planning time. That was one major factor for our implementation and planning. And the other was that they have the time so that we could implement the curriculum that we selected with fidelity and accountability. And that's just one piece that we were asked to describe at the forum.
It wasn't a results-based discussion, it was just a procedural-based discussion.
Procedural and sharing of processes throughout, things that have worked for other districts were also gleaned upon. We were at the table with Milford Public Schools and Odyssey Charter School as an example. So it was what we shared were our critical moves in selecting and implementing the curriculum and what's worked well, some of the obstacles, again, all learning experiences, as there's many districts across the state that are engaging in this or considering different curriculums. So this was more of a presentation and sharing some of the good work that we've done and the excitement around it. Predominantly, it wasn't data driven or data focused, but resource based more so than anything else.
Any other questions or comments? Not seeing none, we will move on in the agenda. Did we have today a presentation on social emotional?
Yeah, we do.
When do you want to take
I
that?
could do that now. Next.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure I answer questions first.
Yeah, why don't we do that before we move on, so that way when we go into executive session. they don't
Very
hang
good.
out.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. At this time, it's my absolute privilege to welcome up our Director of Student Services, Mike Lynch. He was going to have a team with him today, but other illnesses have taken over instead. So Mike will be coming up to present on his own, but we are here to support him. He's going to be sharing with us some key elements of social emotional learning that we engage in here in New Hartford Public Schools and in the state of Connecticut. More of what it is versus what it is not. So looking forward to this. There's a component of some video highlights as well. I don't want to steal too much thunder because I know Mike and the team worked very hard on this presentation, and I'm super excited to share that with both the Board of Education and those that are publicly watching this evening.
Yeah, so I think there tends to be a lot of questions around Ruler, and so we just wanted to clarify it. And I know as board members, you might be asked questions about it, so we just want to make sure that everybody had the same information. So what is Ruler? So it's not a specific curriculum, it's more of an approach. The whole idea is designed to teach emotional intelligence, and I'll define that a little bit later, to everybody. So this is adults, staff, and students. Goal of creating healthier, more innovative, and compassionate society. So what is it? It's an evidence-based approach. It was developed at Yale, and it's typically what we used to call like the soft skills, but it's teaching those soft skills. And ruler teaches that emotional intelligence through each part of ruler establishes something or stands for something. So the first step in ruler is recognizing emotions. That's both just in yourself and others. The next step would be understanding the causes and consequences of emotions. The L is labeling, so labeling emotions. And this is a big part of what we're teaching. And when I say nuanced vocabulary, the videos will do a little bit more justice, so I don't want to give you too much with that, but it'll explain it better. Expressing emotions that in an appropriate way. So what's an appropriate way? And then regulating emotions. So that's if I boil it down ruler to everything, that's the goal of it. And then the rest of it is just kind of the learning with that and what that entails. So why this matters, decades of research have shown that these skills are essential to teaching and learning, decision-making, physical and mental health, and success in school and beyond. So when we look at ruler and what we're specifically teaching, there are 4 what we call anchor tools in ruler, and I'll explain each one. But the charter is the basis. You're establishing your norms. This is the classroom will create this. The mood meter, again, this is where we're recognizing our emotions and stating those specific emotions. The meta moment is, again, these are tools to, the best way I could describe this is like when your parents told you to stop and count to 10, right? So this is just a more visual way of pausing and reflecting. And then the ruler blueprint is really on perspective, taking what happened, how the other person felt, and then what are the appropriate next steps. So again, this gets into the charter. So this is asking the students how they want to feel. That's typically how they start or what's important in our classroom. So just a couple examples of what the charters look like in different schools, different areas. So again, this is from the feedback of the student. So the teachers they might add what 1 or 2 things, but this is really driven by the students. And why this is important is because then when you start to have difficult conversations in classrooms, you can always pull back to the charter and say, remember, this is what was important to us as learners, what's important for us to be in this classroom together. The next part is the mood meter. So, and I'll show you a couple different examples. But on the very bottom, you see pleasantness. So all the way on the left is the least pleasant, to the right is the most pleasant. And then on the left side, you see the energy level. So all the way on the bottom is very low energy, and all the way on the top is high energy. And so a lot of the approaches that we encourage teachers to work on is teaching some of those very specific words. So again, the students will explain it better, but you know, that red quadrant just isn't angry. It could be frustrated, it could be annoyed, it could be, and kind of why that's important is there has been research that says that when you can name an emotion, you start to take control over it, and then you can make better decisions. So again, there's a science behind why we're doing that. The other part to this is if a student can recognize where they are, they can then take a moment to stop and think about where they want to be. So where do you want to be on this scale? And then they start to think about what they need to do to get there. So these are just a couple examples of different mood meters. They're in almost all the classrooms. I know there's a digital app that I know some people have used. You can use whole class. This is the meta moment, again, that pausing. So this is for the younger students. There's one that's for older students that's not as cartoony. But again, it's really taking that moment to stop, to pause, imagining who they want their best self to be, and then strategizing and acting. And the last part is that blueprint. So that conflict resolution, if you want to think about it that way. So these are the questions that the students are asked. How did they feel? What does the other person feel? What caused these feelings? Some of the most powerful is, you know, if you look at like, how might your actions have affected others? or how did somebody's actions affect you? And then, what do you need to do to move forward? So the impact. So what is the impact of having the ruler curriculum? Students, again, this is from Yale, where they've done studies that said that students report feeling less anxious and depressed. They have more developed emotional skills, fewer attention problems, better academic performance, and greater leadership skills. Teachers report more engaging, supportive, and effective classrooms, and a more positive school climate. So some of the frequently asked questions. So these are questions that have come up about ruler in general or just throughout the community. So how is it being implemented? So right now, did we start that last year? Was that last year? All starts to blend together. We built in time for one ruler lesson a week. So it's built into student schedules. So it's up 45 minutes. Okay. Okay. So again, how is the curriculum going to help our students? Pointing to that research that social emotional learning increases academic performance by 11%, reduces aggression, emotional distress, increases helping behaviors, and having that positive attitude towards self and others. Is gender identity part of this curriculum? There are no lessons focused on gender identity in the curriculum. Again, everything is related to either those skills, those anchor skills, developing relationships, and teaching those very nuanced emotional vocabulary. So what does it teach if it's not teaching values? So again, we're focusing on self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Is a big one. Everybody always asks this. Does it excuse students from discipline or consequences? And the answer is absolutely not. So ruler helps to teach that it's not wrong to feel any emotions. There's not necessarily bad emotions. It's more on how we act on them and what we do with them. So we're using that meta moment to pause so they're not acting, reacting immediately. And then mistakes occur. Students still might need discipline or consequences depending on what happens. So yes, there's still consequences. Yes, there's still discipline. And then just their view. I can stand up here and tell you a whole bunch of stuff, but it's not going to really mean anything in comparison to, I think, hearing from the students.
Community center is that I get to hear all of the other people's ideas and what they have to share. And I like community circle because I love sharing and it kind of makes me feel good. I know that the feelings on the mood meter you can have at any time. It doesn't matter when. And also the feelings on the mood meter aren't just mad, sad, and happy and calm. There can be more. How does the mood meter help? The mood meter helps us because now we know that it's okay to have any feeling. The meter can help us sometimes because it can they're like having like, and if they're not like running around a lot, that means like they're kind of calm.
So I was actually amazed at how much feedback I got from this when we reached out and said, hey, can you tell us a little bit?
Colors help to express your emotions because it really tells you how you're feeling, and it can tell you how you feel about stuff, and it's helpful to share. Really helped me when I'm frustrated because it taught me how to calm down. I think ruler is good to help you express your emotions because you can share them with other people how you're feeling. You can show it and you can help other people too.
So that was the student impact. And then the last was just, we reached out and said, from teachers, what do you see in your classrooms? What does that look like?
The three key components of the ruler program that I think have a strong impact in the first grade classroom. The first one is the community circle. Each day we start off with the students sharing any thoughts or feelings that they have. And it's a very informal way for me to assess their social and emotional needs of that day. Another component is the explicit instruction of the feeling words and the emotions. This helps them learn strategies. First helps them learn to identify their emotions more specifically, and then learn and apply strategies that they can use to help them through those emotions. The classroom charter is another key component that we use. In the beginning of the year, the students write feeling words of how they want to feel when they come into the classroom, and then they also write a list of ways or actions that will support them to have those feelings when they come in. We revisit those feeling words and the actions in the middle of the year to decide how are we doing with them? Do we need to make any adjustments? Are there other feeling words that we'd like to have when we come into the classroom? So it's a good way to help us keep on track to maintain our positive classroom environment.
Obviously, some teachers have more to say than others.
She is a good teacher.
Ruler has been super beneficial in my classroom because it helps my students identify their emotions by either plotting on the repeater or identifying what emotional feelings. So when we do our individual emotional lessons, they can recognize how they're feeling if they've ever felt like that and what.
And you could see like that, the ruler check-in right behind her.
So I think the way ruler has most impacted my classroom that I see with my students a lot is that they have a much better emotional vocabulary. They better understand emotions in themselves and in each other. And then they also it helps them actually academically too when reading and discussing characters and stories. They're better able to sort of understand like nuanced emotions as opposed to just happy, sad, mad. Those more what kids used to do. And I think with ruler, they just have a much broader emotional vocabulary, which benefits them more academically and then also emotionally for themselves and socially with their friends. So it's the biggest impact I see at this point in time with our implementation of ruler.
A part of the ruler curriculum that my class really likes is the meta moment. It's a great time to take a pause and reset.
All right, so I don't know if you have any specific questions about it, but we felt like it was we felt like it was really important to get student and teacher voice, and it's sometimes hard to get everybody here, so we felt like this was a better way. So do you have any specific questions about it?
Is there any way that we can provide a little more transparency to parents, like through that email? I feel like the email is always relatively vague, and it's like reach out with any questions, but it would be nice if we could get like a PDF document in there where parents can just click on that and read it, because probably the majority of parents aren't going to take the time to call you or email you to try to figure out some additional details.
Yeah, I mean, I think, so there's two components of it. I mean, yes, we could share something like this presentation, because it kind of breaks it down. I don't know if like a one pager would really do it justice. And then the other component, when I spoke, Alex called me at like 4:15 today, who was supposed to come, and was like, I know I went home for half a day, but I starting to feel better. I think I could come. And I was like, no, but her voice was, there is a parent component that we can have. And we can get more licenses for the parents, and there's a parent presentation that we can do within the community. So it just we haven't built that in yet. So that's definitely something that we can do, and that we're definitely looking to explore. We just need that support with that. But yeah, so I think there's nothing particularly that we're trying to be as transparent as possible with it. So there's nothing really to hide or to not show. I think the problem too, sometimes when people look at the approach, and it's something that I know my staff is working really hard on, because not all the lessons are scripted, right? For example, one of the teaching lessons, they're teaching about an emotion, and it talks about linking it to a book that they're reading in class, right? So there is some work on the teacher's part. And I know the staff, they're new under the new TVAL system. Their new 2-year goal is they're going to work on creating those lessons and help supporting the teachers with that. So yeah, I mean, definitely something like this we could share. I wouldn't put the videos in there, but the basic information definitely I would share out. And maybe that's something that we can just put on our website. I don't foresee a problem with that.
Thank you. And just one more question. As part of the social emotional learning, isn't for certain grade levels, correct me if I'm wrong, there's some sort of testing that occurs at some point?
Yes.
How does that work?
So currently right now, the state of Connecticut did require that there is a social emotional learning screener. So a lot of districts are taking on called the DESA Mini or DESA Screener. Most districts are doing that. We do something a little bit more. We use the BEST screener from the BASC rating scale. And the reason we use that, and the reason why we hold to that so much, is because starting in 3rd grade, there's a student component where they complete it. And we found that if they didn't complete it, that we might be missing students. So what that looks at is if there's any concerns that we should work as a team to address. So say for instance, I'm just using an example, we've had in the past where a student doing really well, high achieving, the teacher component of it, no concerns. The student rated themselves pretty highly on anxiety. They don't know it, but they're answering those questions. And that you start a conversation with the parent. So typically one of the mental health staff will reach out and talk about like next steps. Sometimes parents say, we're good, we'll monitor this at home, thanks for letting us know, or are there any resources in the school? And it's a collaboration with the family and the school. Because not everything necessarily needs to be dealt with in school. If it affects them in school, then that's something that we try to help with, but that's not always the case. So did that answer your question?
It does. When you have the testing, is that data collected by a third-party source at all, or is that strictly within the school district?
I believe it is collected by a third party, but we use them for the special education testing as well. So it's a major company, Pearson.
So how would that testing affect a child throughout each grade level? Like, would that follow them throughout their grades all through high school?
So is it get stored somewhere where then the teachers can constantly see it? No. So what would happen would be, if there was something that came up to the fact that we felt like we needed to support them in school, then they would be brought up to the MTSS team. And that's just a team of staff members where we talk about what supports need to go in place. Sometimes it doesn't rise to that level. So that would just be like the counselor or the social worker or the psychologist reaching out to the parent. So that's not necessarily part of their record. It's not really about like their skills so much as just making sure we're not missing or having somebody with needs that we could support or somebody else could support and them not getting those needs. So typically it's screening for anxiety, depression.
Is there a reason we have to share this data, or can we tell them, no, we're not going to share it and keep it at?
I mean, I don't
within
want
our
to
district?
speak for Pearson, but I know that that's how we use the data. It's all the testing pretty much is digital now. So it's one of the biggest psychological toolkits. But if we use like what the DESA is using, it's the same thing. I actually feel more safe with Pearson managing it versus a different third party because they're used to dealing with like special education testing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Get rid of my
Your cord. Okay, thank you, Mike. And thanks to the team and to all of the student participants and also to all of the teachers as well. Thank you so much for doing that for us. And that concludes fully the Board of Education Superintendent's report.
Excellent. One last chance for questions or comments on the superintendent's report. Seeing none, we'll move on to the Board of Education Chair's report. I do not have anything to report out tonight. Moving on to item F, routine business. We have approval of minutes and expenditure report.
Can I pull out the expenditure report because I have a couple of questions?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Let's take up the approval of the minutes from the September 17, 2024 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion by Penny. Do we have a second?
No, second.
Second by Tim. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? Any abstentions? So we are recording, secretary is not here. So we had two abstentions
And Kristen.
and 5 for approval. So motion passes 5-0-2. All right, expenditure report, Penny.
Okay.
You know, we should probably get a motion on the floors for discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the expenditure report ending October 31st, 2024.
A motion by Penny. Do we have a second for discussion? Second by Tom for
Okay,
discussion,
now we can have discussion.
please.
On the salaries on the first page, how come some of them are over? At the top of the page. The regular classroom.
Yep, I see where you're looking at the first, second, third, fourth line.
The second,
And then
third,
even the
fourth,
fifth line.
fifth.
Yep. So some of these adjustments were either the following, and I could get further clarification from our fiscal assistant, either a miscalculation in the steps of where educators were in their contract, according to their contract, or there may also be additional grant funds that haven't rolled in to offset these yet. It's one of the two typically, and that would be in the regular ed and also the special ed if there are any discrepancies on that page as well. That's typically what it is.
On page 3,
Page 3.
the equipment,
Yes.
for special ed.
Yep.
Any reason why?
Absolutely. So we would never know, but when we get young little ones in pre-K or kindergarten that have significant special education needs, that line was immediately expended. When you're talking about equipment, we're talking about mobility, we're talking about restroom usage, we're talking about playground equipment. So it quickly, immediately was vanquished, used up completely to meet the needs of students that we don't know, but we receive them. So we're going to meet their needs.
Because I mean, the one for New Hartford is 694% over.
Yep. Equipment for those needs are not
Okay.
cheap at all.
And then dues and fees on that same, in that same area?
Mhm.
Is that just like magazines and stuff or?
No, that's
things
to,
that they belong to?
yeah, that's to belong to different associations. And last year when we're creating the budget, we had a set price that we thought they were not going to increase. And over the summer, or over the time that they meet as a board, they decided to up the fees. And those are the reflections of that now.
Are we going to be able to cover these overages?
Yes.
Okay. On page 5, on legal, with the upcoming meetings that we have, can't even think of what the word is. Mediation, thank you. With the upcoming mediation, are we gonna just blow this line out of the water and
We may, and
need more money in that line?
we may. And unfortunately, that was as a result of cuts that we had to make last year, even with my best recommendation to the board and to the Board of Finance.
Now, is this apparently is up to date that we have 15,000 left to spend?
Should be to date for whenever this was printed,
October.
10/9/24 at 2:08 PM on the bottom
Oh,
left-hand
so
side,
then maybe
bottom left-hand
the
side.
last, is the last payroll run in this? Last check
Hmm.
run?
I don't know. I know the first one was, I don't know if this is the second one. I doubt it because it was printed earlier than that.
It was like the 15th. So I signed checks last week on the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think those checks are included in here?
Those probably are, yes,
Oh,
but not the second payroll of that,
Right.
of this month.
okay. All right, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to,
Well,
we don't
we
need
already
to,
have it.
we already did it.
Any further questions or comments on the expenditure report? Seeing none, we have a motion by Penny and a second by Tom to approve. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hands. That is unanimous. Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda is item G, new business. This is for discussion action regarding tentative agreement reached with local 1303-367, New Hartford paraeducators. This will be taken up in executive session. So I will entertain a motion to enter executive session.
So moved.
Please invite the superintendent.
Oh,
And
and
invite Superintendent Souza to join us.
moved by Penny to invite Superintendent Sousa to join us. Do we have a second? Second by Deirdre. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hands. That is unanimous.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Great
great night.
presentation, Mike.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Thank you.